This just solidifies, perhaps, that it's not going to happen in Georgia. Does it matter at this point?
Listen, I think obviously if you're Trump and you're Trump's team, they're breathing a sigh of relief. It wasn't good news that they got out of those 12 jurors in New York and the 34 convictions, essentially, and guilty counts. But you're right. I mean, this was expected. There are cases out there that are lingering that are much more serious and really kind of resonate in a different way with average voters, including the Georgia one and the one out of Florida about the documents. So listen, good news for Donald Trump, but as you said, not unexpected that this happened.
Yet there could be another as we wait to hear from the Supreme Court. Jack Smith, the special counsel, would love to have his January 6th trial take place here in Washington before the election. How worried is the Trump team about that, having seen the way this guilty verdict
No,
is
listen,
played?
I think they are very worried. I mean, you hear Republicans trying to sort of spin what came out of New York to say, oh, this was a fundraising boon. We'll see it at some point. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. And this has made Republicans who had soured on Donald Trump rally back to his side. I don't think that's really true. I think if you're Donald Trump, this was a shock, right? I think it was a shock to a lot of people who were watching that New York case that on all counts, it was a guilty verdict. So I think if you're Donald Trump, you know what's possible. There's sort of spin and there's the reality of he's got this task ahead of him, which is now running for president as a convicted felon.
Well, the reality for Joe Biden is that he's running to be president for a second term as an 81-year-old.
Yes.
And that has been spotlighted by some reporting from the Wall Street Journal today that reads in part that some who have worked with him, including Democrats, and some who have known him back to his time as vice president, described a president who appears slower now, someone who has both good moments and bad ones. Now, the White House has cast this as being motivated by partisan politics. There has been criticism from Democrats, including Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, suggesting they talked to the Wall Street Journal and their views on this were not adequately reported. But this is damaging to a president that cannot seem to shake the age and mental acuity questions surrounding him.
Yeah, and listen, most of the age and the acuity questions come from what we see of Donald Trump, and in some ways that's true. But we're talking about Joe Biden. Yeah, we're talking about Joe Biden here. Viewers can see that Joe Biden is a little slower physically, right? He's got a sort of what my mom refers to as an old man walk, and my mother is 86 years old. But at any rate, so I think a lot of the concerns that were aired in this article, a lot of them were by Republicans. And so I think if you are a Democrat, you can say maybe this article was a little unfair. And I also think that the scrutiny of Joe Biden should also apply to Donald Trump, right? We saw him on Friday give a very meandering, incoherent speech after his guilty verdicts in New York. And so he also has lost a step in terms of his presentation and physically as well. But listen, this is going to be a problem for Joe Biden. They cannot seem to shake it. He's not going to get younger, right? He just isn't. And I think that's why the debate is going to matter so much. Him matched up against Donald Trump. And listen, I think Joe Biden has always presented in terms of the way he talks, gaffes, a lot of gaffes, and you see some of that, and the Wall Street Journal talked about some of that. So it's going to be very important for him, in the way that it was for that State of the Union, for him to seem with it and forward-leaning in the way that he engages with these policy issues and with Donald Trump in that debate.
Nia, thanks for being back with us. Nia-Malika Henderson, writing opinion for Bloomberg and getting us started today on Balance of Power. The president taking criticism from both sides of the aisle for the border security executive order that he rolled out yesterday, now in effect. Here's Representative Pramila Jayapal this morning at the Capitol.
I think it's a mistake what he's doing. I've said that. I think it is not what he said during the campaign, and I think it's using tools, and I want to be clear that Joe Biden is significantly different from Donald Trump, but he's using tools that Donald Trump used and that we all spoke out against. I hope this will be declared unconstitutional, just as Trump's was when he tried to do the same thing.
Let's get into this more, the reaction a day later with Bloomberg's Texas bureau chief, Julie Fine. It's great to see you, Julie. Pramila Jayapal tweeted as well today. I've said it before, I'll say it again. When Democrats try to out-Republican the Republicans, it doesn't work. But as I'm sure you're hearing, Republicans don't like this either, do they?
No, Republicans do not like this. They do not think it went far enough. Senator John Cornyn, who would like to be the leader, speaking out against it today. I mean, and a lot of Democrats, yes, they're saying what they're saying, but I don't think they're going to turn around and vote for former President Trump. So essentially here, this is a winner for Republicans. And I think we've seen this when it comes to immigration.
I want to ask you about something else that is developing in Texas, Julie. A Texas stock exchange has raised $120 million. BlackRock and Citadel are backing this. Is Texas trying to be the next New York?
Well, I think the governor would certainly say that. I mean, you've seen a lot of companies move down here. Goldman Sachs will have their headquarters here in Dallas. That's where this Texas Stock Exchange will be. There's a lot ahead for this. They've raised $120 million. And yes, certainly it helps when you have names like Citadel behind it, when you have names like BlackRock. But, they're not going to be trading for a year yet. It's going to be all electronic. So there is a lot ahead for this Texas Stock Exchange.
Is this something that's going to be an alternative to the New York Stock Exchange, though? What's the spirit of the investment? To Kailey's point, we're seeing some pretty big names get behind this, Julie. This isn't to be the next New York Stock Exchange, is it? I'm hearing more of an alternative.
Yeah, this is more of an alternative. But again, when you have these names behind it right out of the gate, that certainly will help when it comes to other investors. And they have some time. The paperwork won't be filed with the SEC until later on this year. So, yes, this will be a type of alternative to the stock exchange. However, you do look at the New York Stock Exchange, and the floor is certainly not what it used to be, back in the day when you saw people running around. I mean, yes, this here is electronic, but they are certainly hoping that this is something that big companies will certainly follow Citadel into and will follow BlackRock as they invest in this.